the part of the deep web that will change you forever. If you like the story, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. Also, it would be fun if you let me know what time it is when you watch it. Let's begin. I've always been the kind of person who pushes boundaries. It wasn't enough to skim the surface of the internet like everyone else. I wanted to dive deep, past the polished websites and curated content, to the places where secrets were hidden. The deep web fascinated me, not because of the exaggerated horror stories or the myths about hitmen and red rooms, but because I believed it held truths no one else dared to confront. One night, after hours of scrolling through the same dull social media feeds, I decided I'd had enough. It was late, well past midnight, but that was the perfect time for this kind of adventure. My laptop hummed softly as I booted into a virtual machine, layered with enough encryption to make me feel safe, even if I wasn't. I knew the risks, of course. The lectures about hackers, viruses, and surveillance played in my mind like a distant echo, but I ignored them. I wasn't looking for trouble. I just wanted to explore. As I navigated through the familiar gateways and directories of the deep web, I felt the same rush of excitement I always did. Most of it was underwhelming. Pages filled with poorly designed forums, ancient archives, and outdated conspiracy theories. But I kept digging, certain there was more. I was good at finding the unfindable, piecing together fragments of links and whispers into something tangible. Hours passed. My room was silent except for the faint clicking of my keyboard and the occasional hum of the fridge in the corner. The glow of the laptop screen was the only light, casting long, flickering shadows on the walls. I told myself I'd log off soon, but then I found it. The link didn't look like much. It was buried in a forum thread filled with nonsense about cryptic riddles and impossible puzzles. Most of the posts were gibberish, but one comment caught my eye. If you want to see something real, something that will change the way you see everything, click here. It was a simple string of characters, the kind of link that made most people hesitate. But I didn't. Without a second thought, I copied and pasted it into my browser. The page loaded slowly, as if it were deciding whether or not to let me in. When it finally appeared, I wasn't sure what to make of it. The site was stark, just a black background with white text at the center. The words were simple, but they sent a chill down my spine. Enter if you seek the truth. I hesitated for the first time that night. Something about the message felt off. It wasn't threatening exactly, but it was personal in a way I couldn't explain. I glanced around my room, half expecting to see something out of place, but everything was as it should be, messy, cluttered, and completely normal. Taking a deep breath, I clicked the single link on the page. The screen went black for a moment, and I felt a strange flutter of anticipation in my chest. When the site finally loaded, it was like stepping into another world. The page was minimalist but unsettling. At the top, there was a message in bold text. Are you ready to see what lies beneath? Below it, there was a single button labeled Proceed. My finger hovered over the touchpad, my mind racing with possibilities. I had no idea what I was about to find, but I couldn't stop myself. I clicked. The screen flickered, and then everything changed. My browser was replaced by a blank page, save for a small progress bar that slowly filled. My heart pounded as I waited, each second stretching into an eternity. When the bar finally hit 100%, the screen went black again. And then it appeared, a grainy, pixelated image of a room. At first, I thought it was a pre-recorded video, maybe some sort of surveillance feed. The room was dimly lit, cluttered with furniture and personal belongings. It felt oddly familiar, but I couldn't place why. I leaned closer to the screen, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. And then it hit me. It was my room. My breath caught in my throat as I scanned the image, my mind racing to rationalize what I was seeing. The messy bed, the clothes draped over the chair, the flickering lamp on the desk. It was all there, every detail exactly as it was in real life. I turned my head slowly, my eyes darting around the room. Nothing seemed out of place, but the realization that I was watching myself from an angle I couldn't possibly replicate sent a shiver down my spine. Before I could react, a chat window appeared beneath the video feed. The words were simple, typed in small, unassuming text. Hello, Alex. My eyes locked onto the chat window, and I felt my stomach drop. The message was simple, just 2 words, but it sent a wave of dread through me. Hello, Alex. My first instinct was denial. There had to be an explanation, a prank, a glitch, something mundane. I hovered over the chat window, hesitating to type a response. My heart pounded as I glanced around my room, half expecting someone to step out of the shadows. But everything was still. Quiet. I swallowed hard and typed, "Who is this?" My fingers shook as I hit enter. The reply came almost instantly. "You're curious, aren't you? That's why you're here." My blood ran cold. Whoever or whatever was on the other end of this chat knew too much. My curiosity had brought me here, but this was different. This wasn't some random forum or encrypted site. This was personal. I typed again, my breathing shallow. "How do you know my name?" The response took longer this time, as if whoever was typing wanted to let the tension build. "I know a lot about you, Alex. I've been waiting for you." I pushed back from my desk, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. This wasn't funny anymore. My rational mind screamed at me to close the browser, shut down the computer, and forget any of this had happened. But I didn't. I couldn't. Instead, I typed one last message. "Why me?" The screen flickered, the video feed momentarily distorting into static before stabilizing again. The reply was chillingly direct. "Because you're ready to see the truth." I stared at the words, my mind racing. What truth? What was this person or entity trying to tell me? Against my better judgment, I stayed on the page, my curiosity overpowering my fear. The chat continued. "Do you know how many people come here and turn back? They get scared. They don't want to know what's real. But you're different." The grainy feed of my room shifted slightly, the angle tilting ever so subtly as though someone had adjusted the camera. I whipped my head around, scanning the room again, but nothing had changed. Then another message appeared. "Let me show you." Before I could respond, the screen changed again. The video feed disappeared, replaced by a new page with a dark background and cryptic symbols I didn't recognize. In the center of the screen was a single link. "Enter the archive." I hesitated. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to stop, to unplug the laptop and walk away. But the pull was too strong. Whoever or whatever was behind this knew how to play on my curiosity, how to draw me deeper into their web. I clicked the link. The page loaded slowly, the progress bar crawling forward as if mocking my impatience. When it finally completed, a new interface appeared. It was a list, rows upon rows of files, each labeled with cryptic titles like The Watchers, The Lost Frequencies, and The Gateway. I scrolled through the list, my heart pounding as I read the names. Each one felt ominous, as though simply opening a file could change everything. At the top of the page with a single instruction, "Choose wisely," I clicked on the first file. The screen went black again, and a new video feed began to play. This time, it wasn't my room. It was a dimly lit corridor, the walls lined with what looked like old, decaying photographs. The camera moved slowly, as though someone or something was walking down the hallway. A chill ran down my spine as I realized the photos weren't random. Each one depicted a person, their face frozen in an expression of terror. Some of the images were old, faded with time, while others looked disturbingly recent. The camera stopped in front of one particular photo. The image was distorted, but I could make out enough details to feel my blood run cold. It was me. I slammed the laptop shut, my breathing ragged. My reflection stared back at me from the dark screen, pale and wide-eyed. For a moment, I sat there, frozen, my mind struggling to process what I had just seen. But curiosity won out again. I opened the laptop, the screen flickering back to life. The page was still there. The video feed paused on the photo of my face. Beneath it, a new chat message appeared. "Do you see now?" My hands trembled as I typed back. "See what?" The response came quickly. "The part of you that you've ignored. The part you hide from yourself." I didn't understand what they meant, but the words unsettled me. They felt too close, too personal, as if the person or entity on the other side could see into my mind. The chat continued. "This is just the beginning. Do you want to know more?" I stared at the screen, my thoughts a jumble of fear and curiosity. I should have closed the browser, but instead I typed yes. The screen flickered, and the page reloaded. A new link appeared, labeled simply The Path. I clicked it without hesitation, my curiosity overriding every warning sign. This time, the video feed showed a dark forest, the trees twisted and gnarled, their branches forming a canopy that blocked out the sky. The camera moved slowly through the forest, the crunch of leaves underfoot audible, through my laptop speakers. A message appeared on the screen. You've started the journey. There's no turning back now. I leaned closer to the screen as the video feed played, the dark forest on display, as though I were the one walking through it. The trees were unnaturally tall, their twisted branches forming shapes that seemed almost deliberate. The sound of footsteps, crunching leaves, and faint whispers echoed through my speakers, though there was no visible figure holding the camera. The feed felt alive, as if it were responding to me. The camera would pan suddenly, focusing on details that didn't seem important at first, a gnarled root, a patch of moss, or a faint carving on a tree trunk. But the more I watched, the more I realized these details weren't random. They were symbols. The carvings were faint but unmistakable, glowing faintly in the dim light of the forest. They matched the symbols I had seen earlier on the cryptic website, the ones that seemed to pulse with meaning just beyond my understanding. A chill ran down my spine as the camera paused, focusing on a particularly large tree with a spiral symbol carved deep into its bark. The spiral seemed to twist and shift, the lines moving as though they were alive. The whispers in the background grew louder, forming fragmented sentences. You see it now. The path is chosen. It knows you. I couldn't move, couldn't tear my eyes away from the screen. The camera continued its slow journey through the forest, moving deeper into the darkness. The symbols became more frequent, their glow brighter, as though they were leading the way. And then the camera stopped abruptly. In the center of the screen was a clearing, bathed in an eerie, bluish light. At the center of the clearing stood a stone pedestal, its surface covered in the same glowing symbols. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, filling my room with their disjointed words. The heart, it waits. You must see. The camera moved closer to the pedestal, the footsteps louder now, crunching with deliberate intent. My heart raced as the view zoomed in on the pedestal, revealing something resting on its surface, a small object barely visible in the dim light. I squinted, trying to make out the object, when the screen abruptly glitched. The video feed flickered, static filling the screen for a moment before it stabilized again. But now something was different. The clearing was gone. In its place was a room that sent a wave of icy dread through me. It was my room. The camera was moving through my room now, panning slowly over my desk, my bed, my bookshelf. Every detail was exactly as it should be, down to the half-empty cup of coffee sitting next to my laptop. My breath hitched as the camera stopped, focusing on the chair where I was sitting. It wasn't empty. I stared in horror at the screen as I saw myself, sitting at my desk, watching the same feed I was watching now. The camera angle was impossible. There were no cameras in my room. No way anyone could be filming me from that perspective. The whispers returned, louder now, their tone almost mocking. You see now. It watches. You are part of it. I pushed my chair back, nearly toppling over as I scrambled away from the desk. My eyes darted around the room, searching for anything out of place, but everything looked normal. The shadows in the corners seemed darker, though deeper, as if they were watching me. The sound of footsteps filled the speakers again, but this time they didn't match the video feed. They were in sync with something else, something moving in the hallway outside my door. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. The camera on the screen turned slowly, panning toward the door to my room. The whispers grew louder, their fragmented words overlapping. It's here. Let it in. You chose this. The door in the video creaked open, but my own door stayed still. I couldn't tell if I was relieved or more terrified. The camera moved closer to the doorway, but the screen began to distort, the image breaking into static before stabilizing again. The hallway outside my room was dark, the only light coming from the faint glow of the laptop. I stepped forward cautiously, my feet heavy, as I reached for the door. But before I could touch the handle, a message appeared on the screen. Do not open it. My hand froze midair. The screen flickered, and the message was replaced by another. It's already inside. I stumbled back, my pulse racing as I scanned the room. Nothing had changed. Everything was exactly as it had been moments ago. But the whispers were still there, louder now, filling my head with their relentless noise. The video feed shifted again, this time showing a close-up of the pedestal in the clearing. The object on its surface was clearer now, a small black box with intricate carvings etched into its surface. The camera zoomed in, focusing on the carvings, and the whispers stopped abruptly. In their place was a single voice, clear and direct. "Take it." I shook my head, backing away from the screen. "No," I whispered, as though whoever was on the other end could hear me. The voice spoke again, firmer this time. "Take it, or it takes you." The screen flickered, the image of my room briefly overlaying the clearing before stabilizing again. The pedestal was empty now, the black box gone. A new message appeared on the screen. "It's yours now." I felt something cold in my pocket. My heart nearly stopped as I reached in and pulled out the same black box I had just seen on the pedestal. It was smaller than I expected, fitting neatly in the palm of my hand, but its weight was oppressive. The carvings on its surface seemed to shift and pulse faintly, as though it were alive. The whispers returned, softer now, almost soothing. "You are part of it. It is part of you. Welcome." The black box felt ice cold in my hand, its surface rough and alive with intricate carvings that pulsed faintly under my touch. My breath quickened as I stared at it, disbelief flooding my mind. How had it appeared in my pocket? I hadn't touched anything, hadn't left my seat, yet here it was real, solid, and impossibly heavy for its size. The whispers faded into silence, leaving the room eerily still. My laptop screen flickered back to life, and the chat window reappeared. A new message had appeared, simple and chilling. "It belongs to you now." I sat frozen, my pulse hammering in my ears. Against my better judgment, I typed back, "What is this?" The reply came almost instantly, a piece of the truth. I shook my head, my mind racing with questions. Nothing about this made sense. None of it was possible. And yet, the box was real, tangible, and its presence seemed to fill the room with a weight I couldn't explain. I typed again, my hands trembling. "Who are you?" The response took longer this time, as though whoever or whatever was on the other side was deciding how much to tell me. Finally, the words appeared. "A guide? A watcher? Part of it." The cryptic answer only deepened my unease. I stared at the screen, hoping for clarification, but the chat remained still. My eyes drifted back to the box, its carvings glinting faintly in the dim light. As I turned it over in my hands, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. A small latch on one side, barely visible against the intricate designs. The whispers returned, faint and insistent, urging me, "Open it. See what lies within." I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the latch. Every instinct screamed at me to stop, to throw the box as far away as possible, and shut down the computer. But the pull was too strong. With a deep breath, I flicked the latch open. The box's lid creaked slightly as it lifted, revealing its contents, a small folded piece of paper. My fingers trembled as I pulled it out, unfolding it carefully. The paper was old, its edges frayed and yellowed with age. The symbols on it were familiar, identical to the ones carved into the box and the trees in the forest. But in the center of the paper was something different, a name. It was my name. The air in the room seemed to grow heavier, pressing down on me as I stared at the paper. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. How could this be possible? How could this box, this ancient piece of something otherworldly, contain my name? I typed frantically into the chat window. "What does this mean? Why is my name here?" The reply came quickly, as though it had been waiting for the question. "Because you were chosen." I leaned back in my chair, my pulse racing. Chosen for what? I wanted to ask, but I was afraid of the answer. The box felt heavier in my lap, its carvings seeming to shift and ripple as though reacting to my fear. The chat continued. "The box is a key, a door. It connects you to what lies beyond." "Beyond what?" I typed back, desperation creeping into my words. The response was chilling. "Beyond everything you know." As the words appeared, the box began to vibrate faintly, a low hum emanating from within. The carvings glowed brighter, casting strange shadows on the walls. The whispers grew louder, their fragmented words overlapping in a chaotic symphony. "The path is open. The truth awaits. You must see." My hands trembled as I typed. "I don't want this. I didn't ask for this." The reply was instant and unforgiving. "But you chose it. You entered. You stayed. Now it's yours." I felt a surge of anger and fear. This wasn't fair. I hadn't agreed to any of this. I was just a curious explorer, poking around where I didn't belong. How had it come to this? I slammed the box shut, the hum silencing immediately. The room fell into a tense, suffocating quiet. I reached for the laptop, ready to shut it down, but the chat window flashed with another message. Closing it doesn't change what you've seen. The whispers returned, softer now, almost pitying. It's part of you. You can't escape it. I stared at the screen, my mind spinning. What did they mean by part of me? What had I unleashed by opening the box? My gaze drifted to the paper still clutched in my hand, my name glaring back at me like an accusation. The chat continued. You wanted the truth. Now you have it. What truth? I typed back, my frustration boiling over. This doesn't make any sense. The reply chilled me to the core. The truth of what you are. The screen flickered, and the video feed returned. This time, it wasn't my room or the forest. It was somewhere else entirely, a vast dark expanse filled with shifting shapes and glowing symbols. The air in the room grew colder as I watched, my breath visible in the dim light. The whispers grew louder, their words clearer now. It's waiting. Step through. Become part of it. I shook my head, fear clawing at my chest. I didn't sign up for this, I whispered aloud, my voice trembling. But deep down, I knew it didn't matter. The box, the symbols, the whispers, they weren't letting me go. The whispers were relentless now, no longer faint murmurs but sharp, piercing voices that overlapped in a chaotic frenzy. My heart raced as I slammed the box shut again, desperate to silence the noise, but it didn't stop. The symbols carved into its surface glowed brighter, their light pulsating in time with the voices. I typed into the chat window with trembling hands, my frustration boiling over. I don't want this. Leave me alone. The response appeared instantly, as though it had been waiting for my outburst. You opened the box, Alex. You can't undo what's been done. I stared at the words, my pulse pounding in my ears. The weight of their finality pressed down on me, suffocating and inescapable. But I wasn't ready to give up. My fingers flew across the keyboard, desperate for answers. Why me? What do you want from me? The chat responded in chilling simplicity. You. Before I could process the implications of that single word, the whispers shifted, their fragmented sentences forming something more coherent. It's inside now. You brought it here. It sees everything. My stomach twisted as I glanced around the room. The shadows in the corners seemed darker, shifting subtly as though alive. The air grew heavier, colder, and the faint metallic scent I'd noticed earlier returned, stronger than before. The chat continued. You're not safe, Alex. You never were. A chill ran down my spine as a new message appeared. Look behind you. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. Every instinct told me not to turn around, but the words on the screen were like a command I couldn't ignore. Slowly, I turned my head, my eyes scanning the room behind me. Nothing. The room was empty, exactly as it had been before. The whispers quieted slightly, their chaotic noise reduced to faint murmurs that lingered just at the edge of my perception. I let out a shaky breath, trying to convince myself that it was all in my head. But then my laptop screen flickered again, and the video feed returned. This time it was back in my room, but the camera was moving. The angle shifted as though someone or something was walking through the space. I watched in horror as the camera panned toward me. My own face stared back at me, wide-eyed and pale, frozen in terror. The camera paused, and the chat window reappeared below the feed. The words that appeared next sent a wave of nausea through me. You see now, don't you? You're not alone. I shoved my chair back, nearly tripping over it as I scrambled to my feet. My heart pounded as I scanned the room again, but everything looked normal. No cameras, no shadows moving out of place. And yet, the feed on my screen showed otherwise. A new message appeared. It's here. The whispers surged again, louder this time, their words overlapping in a frenzied chant. It's here. It's here. It's here. I grabbed the box, my hands trembling, and shouted at the screen. What do you want from me? The chat responded instantly, the words cold and unyielding. Obedience. I froze, my mind racing. Obedience to what? To whoever, or whatever, was behind this. The box seemed to vibrate in my hands, its carvings glowing brighter with every passing second. The screen flickered again, and a new message appeared. You opened the door. Now you must step through. I shook my head, backing away from the desk. "No," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "I'm not doing this." But the chat wasn't done with me. The words that appeared next were more personal, more threatening than anything I'd seen so far. "You don't have a choice, Alex. You belong to it now." The whispers changed, their tone deeper, darker, as though the very room around me was speaking. My reflection in the darkened screen seemed to distort, my face twisting into something unrecognizable. I grabbed my laptop, desperate to shut it down, but the screen wouldn't respond. The feed remained frozen on my distorted reflection, the chat window blinking with a new message. "Run if you want. It will find you." The metallic scent in the air grew stronger, almost suffocating, as the whispers reached a deafening crescendo. The room seemed to darken around me, the shadows pressing in closer. I bolted for the door, the laptop abandoned on the desk, but the whispers followed me, their voices echoing in my mind. "You can't escape it. You brought it here. It's part of you now." The hallway outside my room was silent, but the weight of the forest, of the box, still lingered. I clutched the box tightly, my mind racing with thoughts of how to get rid of it, how to escape whatever I had unleashed. But deep down, I knew the truth. There was no escaping this. The box, the whispers, the symbols, they were part of me now, woven into the fabric of my existence. I glanced at the box one last time, its carvings glowing faintly in the dim light. The whispers softened, their tone almost soothing now. "There's no turning back." I clutched the box tightly as I stumbled down the hallway, the walls seeming to press in closer with every step. My heart raced, the rhythmic pounding in my chest almost drowning out the faint whispers that continued to echo in my mind. The box felt heavier than before, its cold surface sending a chilling sensation through my skin. The faint glow of its carvings pulsed in rhythm with the whispers, as though the box was alive and syncing itself with me. I reached the living room and collapsed onto the couch, gasping for air. The laptop was still in my room, but the whispers didn't care. They followed me, lingering in the air like static electricity. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to stretch and shift, forming shapes that disappeared the moment I tried to focus on them. The air grew colder, the metallic scent sharper, almost metallic. I glanced around, my eyes darting to every corner of the room, but nothing seemed out of place. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. The whispers grew louder, their fragmented words forming sentences that sent a chill down my spine. "It's here. You can't hide. You belong to it now." I gripped the box tighter, my knuckles white as I tried to steady my breathing. "What do you want from me?" I whispered aloud, my voice trembling. The room seemed to respond. The shadows moved again, coalescing into faint, humanoid shapes that flickered like static against the walls. The whispers grew clearer, more distinct, as though the figures were speaking directly to me. One of the shadows stepped forward, its shape solidifying into something more defined. It was tall and gaunt, its limbs unnaturally long, and its head tilted at an unsettling angle. Its face was featureless, but its presence radiated an overwhelming sense of malice. The whispers converged into a single voice, deep and resonant, echoing in my mind. "You opened the door. Now we are here." I pressed myself back against the couch, my breath catching in my throat. "Who are you?" I managed to choke out, my voice barely audible. The figure didn't move, but the voice answered. "We are what lies beyond. We are what you sought." My mind raced, trying to piece together what was happening. This wasn't just about the deep web or the box. It was something far bigger, something I couldn't begin to understand. The presence in the room wasn't just watching me. It was inside my thoughts, twisting them, warping them. The whispers returned, softer now, but no less chilling. "You wanted the truth. This is it. The veil is lifted. You are part of the beyond now." The box in my hands began to hum faintly, the vibrations traveling up my arms. The symbols on its surface glowed brighter, casting eerie patterns across the room. I could feel it pulling at me, tugging at the edges of my mind, as though it were trying to draw me into something I couldn't see. I shook my head, trying to block out the whispers. "No," I said, my voice trembling. "I didn't ask for this. I don't want this." The shadow figure tilted its head further, the motion unnatural and unnerving. The voice spoke again, this time with a note of amusement. "It doesn't matter what you want. The choice was made when you opened the box. The room seemed to darken, the shadows growing thicker and more oppressive. The figure stepped closer, its form flickering like a broken signal. My hands trembled as I held the box, its hum growing louder with each passing second. The whispers shifted, their tone almost soothing now, as though they were trying to calm me. You are one of us now. The Beyond accepts you. The door cannot be closed. I felt a surge of panic. This couldn't be happening. It had to be a nightmare, some twisted hallucination brought on by lack of sleep. But the weight of the box in my hands, the icy chill of its surface, told me otherwise. This was real. I glanced at the front door, the faint hope of escape flickering in my mind. If I could just get outside, get away from the box and the shadows, maybe I could break free of whatever was happening. As if reading my thoughts, the shadow figure stepped between me and the door. Its form rippled, the edges blurring and reforming like smoke caught in a strong wind. The voice spoke again, its tone sharp and commanding. There is no escape. The box in my hands pulsed violently, the glow of its symbols blinding for a moment before dimming again. I could feel its energy burrowing deeper into me, binding itself to me in ways I couldn't comprehend. The whispers grew louder, overlapping in a cacophony of sound. You are ours. You belong to the Beyond. Accept it. I closed my eyes, trying to block out the noise, the shadows, the oppressive weight of the room. But even with my eyes shut, I could still see the symbols. Their light burned into my vision. The voice spoke again, softer this time, almost pitying. You cannot go back, Alex. The door is open. You are part of it now. I opened my eyes, tears streaming down my face. The shadow figure was still there, its featureless face tilted toward me. The room felt alive, pulsating with the energy of the box and the presence of the Beyond. I didn't know what to do, what to say. My mind was a whirlwind of fear, confusion, and despair. The box's hum grew louder, filling the room with its resonant energy, and the whispers returned, their words clear and direct. You must choose. I stare at the box, its glowing symbols casting strange, shifting patterns on the walls. I didn't know what the choice was or what it meant, but I knew one thing for certain. My life would never be the same. The room felt impossibly still, yet every shadow seemed to tremble with anticipation. The box in my hands was no longer cold but warm, almost pulsing like a living thing. The whispers that had filled my mind for so long subsided, replaced by a single voice, deep and resonant. It was calm now, almost soothing, as though it were preparing me for something inevitable. You are ready. The words sent a shiver down my spine. Ready for what? I whispered, though I wasn't sure I wanted an answer. The box glowed brighter, its symbols shifting and twisting as though alive. Then the laptop on my desk sprang to life, its screen flickering back to the familiar chat window. A new message appeared, simple but devastating. Look inside. My breath caught in my throat as I stared at the screen, my hands trembling around the box. The thought of opening it again filled me with dread, but I couldn't ignore the pull it had on me. It was as if the box itself was alive, urging me to comply, whispering promises I didn't understand. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the latch. What happens if I open it? I asked aloud, though I wasn't sure who or what I was asking. The screen flickered, and another message appeared. The truth will set you free. The phrase felt like a cruel joke. Nothing about this situation felt freeing. It was a trap, a nightmare that I had willingly walked into. But there was no turning back now. I had to know. With a deep breath, I flicked the latch open once more. The lid of the box creaked as it lifted, and for a moment, I saw nothing but darkness inside. Then slowly, shapes began to emerge, faint and shimmering like reflections on water. At first, I couldn't make sense of what I was seeing. The images were fragmented, shifting and distorting as though they were being broadcast from a broken signal. But as I stared, they began to coalesce into something horrifyingly familiar. It was me. The box was showing me memories, snapshots of my life that I hadn't thought about in years. Some were mundane, like sitting in a classroom or walking through a park. Others were deeply personal, moments I hadn't shared with anyone. The whispers returned, soft and insistent. It sees you. It knows you. It is you. I felt a lump form in my throat as the images continued, growing darker and more invasive. They weren't just memories anymore. They were thoughts, fears, and secrets I had buried deep within myself. The box wasn't just showing me my past. It was showing me everything. A message appeared on the laptop screen. "Do you see now?" Tears blurred my vision as I typed back, "See what?" The response was immediate. "What you are. What you were. What you will become." I shook my head, my chest tightening as panic set in. "This isn't real," I whispered. "It can't be real." But the box disagreed. The images grew sharper, more vivid, until I could no longer distinguish them from reality. The whispers grew louder, their tone almost reverent. "You are chosen. You are the key. You are one with the beyond." The screen flickered, and the chat window updated with a new message. "You've seen the truth. Now make your choice." The room seemed to grow darker, the shadows pressing in around me. The box in my hands felt heavier, its glow pulsating in time with the whispers. My thoughts raced as I tried to make sense of what was happening. "What choice?" I asked aloud, my voice trembling. The laptop screen changed, displaying two options. Accept the truth. Reject the truth. The implications of the choices were impossible to ignore. Accepting the truth meant surrendering to whatever this was, becoming part of the beyond, part of the box, part of something I couldn't begin to understand. Rejecting it might mean freedom, but it might also mean something worse. The whispers grew frantic, their voices overlapping in a chaotic symphony. "Choose wisely. The path is yours. There is no escape." I stared at the screen, my hands trembling as I hovered over the options. The weight of the decision was crushing, and the box seemed to hum with anticipation, as though it were alive and waiting for my answer. I thought about everything that had led me to this moment, the curiosity that had drawn me to the deep web, the choices I had made, the warnings I had ignored. This wasn't just about the box anymore. It was about me, about who I was and what I was willing to become. The whispers softened, their tone almost pleading now. "Choose. The truth awaits." I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and made my decision. I hovered over the options on the screen, my breath shallow and unsteady. The words "accept the truth" and "reject the truth" glared back at me, each one carrying a weight I couldn't fully understand. My hands trembled, the box pulsing faintly in my lap like it was alive, waiting for my decision. The whispers in the room grew louder, their fragmented voices pressing into my thoughts like a relentless tide. "Choose, Alex. The path is yours. We are waiting." I hesitated, my finger hovering over the touchpad. A part of me wanted to shut the laptop and walk away, to abandon the box and hope that this nightmare would end. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't. The truth wasn't something I could unsee, and the whispers weren't something I could ignore. I clicked, "Accept the truth." The screen went black for a moment, and for a brief, blissful second, I thought it was over. But then the laptop flickered to life again, and the room was flooded with a harsh, bluish light. The video feed had returned, but it wasn't showing my room anymore. It was showing the forest, the clearing with a pedestal. The box in my lap vibrated violently, its glow intensifying as the whispers coalesced into a single voice. "You are ready." Before I could react, the screen began to shift. The clearing on the video feed seemed to expand, the trees stretching outward as though they were reaching toward me. The pedestal glowed with the same symbols that covered the box, their light pulsating in rhythm with a hum that now filled the room. And then it happened. The screen wasn't just showing the clearing anymore, it was the clearing. The air in my room grew thick and damp, the faint scent of earth and moss replacing the metallic tang that had lingered before. The walls around me seemed to dissolve, replaced by the towering, twisted trees I had seen on the feed. I was no longer in my room. I was in the forest. Panic surged through me as I spun around, searching for any sign of my apartment, but it was gone. The forest was vast and oppressive, its canopy blocking out the sky. The only light came from the pedestal in the distance, its glow faint but steady. The box in my hands pulsed again, its carving shimmering with an otherworldly light. The whispers returned, louder and more insistent. "Go to the heart. The truth awaits. You are chosen." I stumbled forward, my legs moving as though guided by some unseen force. The forest was eerily silent, save for the sound of my footsteps crunching against the leaf-strewn ground. The trees loomed closer, their branches twisting into shapes that resembled faces, faces that seemed to watch me as I passed. The pedestal grew larger as I approached, its light casting long, flickering shadows across the forest floor. My heart pounded in my chest, every instinct screaming at me to turn back to run. But there was nowhere to go. The forest was infinite, and the pedestal was the only constant in this strange, shifting world. When I reached the clearing, the whispers fell silent. The pedestal stood before me, its surface covered in glowing symbols that seemed to ripple and shift like water. The box in my hands pulsed one last time before going still. A voice, not a whisper, but a deep, resonant voice, spoke directly into my mind. Place it on the heart. I hesitated, staring at the pedestal. What happens if I do? I asked aloud, my voice shaking. The voice didn't answer. The forest remained silent, its oppressive weight pressing down on me. My hands trembled as I lifted the box, its glow intensifying as I brought it closer to the pedestal. The moment the box touched the pedestal, the symbols flared to life, their light blinding. A wave of energy surged through the clearing, knocking me to the ground. The whispers returned, louder than ever, their words overlapping in a chaotic cacophony. The door is open. The heart beats for you. You are one with us. The pedestal began to change, its surface rippling like liquid as the box sank into it. The ground beneath me trembled, and the air grew colder, the faint scent of earth replaced by something metallic and electric. The trees around the clearing seemed to shift, their branches twisting and coiling like living things. Shadows moved between them, their forms barely visible but unmistakably a humanoid. The figures I had seen in my room were here, watching me. And then they stepped into the clearing. The figures were tall and gaunt, their limbs unnaturally long, and their faces blank slates of darkness. They moved in unison, their steps slow and deliberate as they circled the pedestal. The whispers faded, replaced by a deep, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate through my very bones. One of the figures turned toward me, its featureless face tilting as though studying me. The voice returned, echoing in my mind. You are the key. You are the bridge. The heart beats because of you. I stumbled back, my legs weak beneath me. What does that mean? I shouted, my voice breaking. What do you want from me? The figure didn't answer. Instead, it raised a long, spindly hand and pointed toward the pedestal. The box had disappeared, its carvings now etched into the surface of the stone. The glow intensified, and the hum grew louder, filling the clearing with its oppressive resonance. The voice spoke again, calm and final. You opened the door. You brought the heart back to life. Now you must step through. The pedestal began to shift, its surface warping and twisting until it resembled a doorway. The light within was blinding, its glow pulsing in time with a hum. I stared at the doorway, my mind racing. Every instinct told me to run, but there was nowhere to go. The forest was alive, watching, waiting. The figures surrounding the clearing stepped closer, their presence pressing against me like a physical weight. The voice spoke one last time. Step through, Alex. Become one with the beyond. And as the light consumed me, I realized there was no choice. The light from the pedestal was overwhelming, pulsing in rhythm with the steady hum that reverberated through my body. The doorway shimmered before me, its edges twisting like liquid fire, beckoning me to step through. The air around the clearing was thick with energy, and the figures surrounding the pedestal stood motionless, their hollow faces turned toward me. The voice returned, deep and resonant, filling my thoughts as though it was part of me now. The heart beats for you. The path is yours to take. I stumbled back, my legs shaking as I tried to steady myself. My thoughts were a whirlwind of fear, confusion, and desperate hope. What happens if I go through? I asked aloud, my voice trembling. The figures didn't move, but the voice answered. You will see the beyond. You will become part of it. You will be free. Free. The word rang hollow in my mind. Nothing about this felt like freedom. The forest had trapped me, drawn me deeper into its grasp with every step, every choice. And now it was asking me to surrender completely. I glanced behind me, hoping for some sign of escape, but the forest was endless. The trees stood tall and oppressive, their twisted branches forming a cage that seemed to tighten with every passing moment. There was no way out. The whispers returned, softer now, almost soothing. Step through, Alex. It is the only way. I turned back to the pedestal, the glow of the doorway casting long, shifting shadows across the clearing. My hands clenched into fists, my nails digging into my palms as I tried to summon the courage to move. The weight of the box was gone, but its presence lingered, etched into the pedestal and into me. The figures stepped closer, their movements slow and deliberate. The air grew colder, the hum intensifying as the doorway seemed to expand, its light growing brighter. "Why me?" I shouted, my voice breaking. "Why did you choose me?" The voice answered, calm and unwavering. "Because you sought the truth. Because you are ready." The words felt like a cruel joke. I hadn't been ready for any of this. I had been curious, reckless, but never ready. And yet, here I was, standing at the edge of something I couldn't comprehend, something that had already begun to change me. The figures stopped, forming a circle around me and the pedestal. Their hollow faces tilted in unison, as though waiting for my decision. The whispers returned, their tone insistent. "The heart waits. The door is open. Step through." I took a shaky step forward, the light from the doorway washing over me like a wave. My skin tingled, the air around me vibrating with an energy that felt alive. The pedestal seemed to hum in response, its symbols glowing brighter as I approached. The voice spoke again, softer this time, almost gentle. "You cannot go back. The truth is yours now. Step through, and you will see." I hesitated, my hand hovering just inches from the shimmering edge of the doorway. The light pulsed, warm and inviting, but I couldn't shake the feeling that once I crossed the threshold, there would be no coming back. The whispers grew louder, their voices overlapping in a chaotic symphony that filled my mind. The beyond calls. "You are chosen. Step through." My breath caught in my throat as I closed my eyes, trying to block out the noise. But the whispers were inside me now, impossible to ignore. My heart pounded in my chest, every beat echoing in time with the hum of the pedestal. I opened my eyes and took another step forward. The moment my foot crossed the threshold, the light consumed me. It wasn't blinding anymore, it was everything. The hum intensified, vibrating through every fiber of my being, and the world around me dissolved into pure energy. The whispers stopped, replaced by a profound silence that was both comforting and terrifying. I felt weightless, suspended in a void that stretched infinitely in all directions. The symbols from the pedestal swirled around me, their glow forming intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with meaning I couldn't understand. And then the voice returned, stronger and more powerful than ever. "Welcome to the beyond, Alex. You are one with us now." Images flooded my mind, fragments of memories, thoughts, and emotions that weren't my own. I saw places that didn't exist, worlds that defied logic and reason. I felt the weight of countless lives, their experiences and truths merging with mine. The beyond wasn't just a place. It was everything, a vast, incomprehensible network of existence that stretched far beyond the boundaries of reality. I tried to hold on to myself, to keep my identity intact, but it was slipping away. The whispers returned, soothing and persistent. "Let go, Alex. Become one with the truth." I didn't know how long I remained in that void, minutes, hours, or perhaps an eternity. Time had no meaning here, and neither did I. The beyond was overwhelming, its presence filling every corner of my mind, every part of my soul. But somewhere deep inside, a small part of me resisted. A part of me clung to the life I had left behind, to the person I had been before I opened the box. The voice spoke again, its tone almost sad. "You cannot return. You belong here now." I shook my head, a spark of defiance flickering within me. "No," I whispered, though my voice felt small and insignificant against the vastness of the beyond. "I won't let this consume me." The light around me dimmed slightly, as though the beyond was considering my words. The symbols stopped swirling, their glow softening as the silence deepened. And then the voice spoke one final time. "You will return, but the truth will remain. You are marked, Alex. The beyond is part of you now." The light faded, and the world around me reassembled itself. The forest returned, the pedestal standing silent and still. The box was gone, and the figures had disappeared. I stumbled out of the clearing, my mind spinning with the weight of what I had seen, what I had experienced. The whispers were gone, but their presence lingered, a faint hum at the edge of my thoughts. I had escaped the beyond, but I knew it wasn't finished with me. The forest was quiet now, the oppressive energy that had surrounded me seemingly dissipated. The pedestal stood dormant, its glow extinguished. The box was gone, leaving no trace of the nightmare that had unfolded. For a moment, I allowed myself to believe it was over. I stumbled out of the clearing, my legs heavy, my mind racing. The trees seemed less threatening, their shadows no longer twisting into unnatural shapes. The air was lighter, the metallic scent gone. I could see the faint glow of the moon filtering through the canopy, a beacon guiding me back to the world I thought I had left behind. But as I reached the edge of the forest, I realized something was wrong. The world outside wasn't the same. At first, it was subtle, small inconsistencies that seemed like tricks of the mind. The streetlights flickered unnaturally, their glow casting long, warped shadows across the pavement. The air carried a faint hum, a vibration that resonated in my chest. And the sky, the stars were different. They didn't twinkle, they pulsed, their light forming patterns that looked eerily like the symbols from the box. I reached my car, my hands trembling as I fumbled with the keys. The vehicle started without hesitation, the engine's familiar hum grounding me momentarily. I drove toward the city, desperate for some semblance of normalcy, but the further I went, the more the world seemed to unravel. The streets were empty, not just quiet, but devoid of life. Buildings stood dark and lifeless, their windows like empty eyes staring into nothingness. The familiar landmarks of my city were still there, but they looked wrong. Their shapes were slightly distorted, their edges too sharp or too soft, like they were being reshaped by unseen hands. The hum grew louder, filling the air with its relentless vibration. It wasn't coming from the car. It was coming from everywhere. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles white, as I tried to suppress the rising panic in my chest. And then I saw them. Figures stood at the edge of the road, their forms shrouded in shadow. They were humanoid, but their proportions were wrong, too tall, their limbs too long, their heads tilted at unnatural angles. Their hollow eyes glowed faintly, the same sickly light I had seen in the forest. They didn't move, but their presence was suffocating. My chest tightened as I sped past them, my eyes fixed on the road ahead. More figures appeared in the distance, standing in silent clusters, their heads turning in unison to watch me. The whispers returned, faint but unmistakable. The heart beats. The beyond spreads. It's everywhere now. I slammed on the brakes, the car skidding to a halt in the middle of the empty street. My breathing was ragged, my pulse pounding in my ears. "What do you want from me?" I shouted into the void, my voice cracking. The whispers didn't answer. Instead, the hum grew louder, resonating through the ground, the buildings, the air itself. The figures stepped closer, their movements slow and deliberate, their glowing eyes fixed on me. My phone buzzed in the passenger seat, its screen lighting up with a notification. I hesitated, then picked it up, my hand shaking. The message was simple. "You brought it back." My stomach twisted as the meaning sank in. The box, the forest, the beyond, they hadn't stayed behind. I had opened the door, and now it was here. The whispers grew louder, their tones shifting from soft murmurs to a deafening chorus. "It spreads. It grows. You are the key." The figures surrounded the car now, their forms blocking every escape. I gripped the steering wheel, my mind racing for a solution, but deep down, I knew there was none. The beyond had claimed me, and now it was claiming everything else. The hum reached a crescendo, the vibrations shaking the car violently. The figures raised their hands in unison, their movements eerily synchronized. The glow in their eyes intensified, and the air around them seemed to ripple like water. A final message appeared on my phone. "Welcome to the new truth." And then the light consumed everything. When I opened my eyes, the world was gone. I stood in a vast, endless void, the hum now a steady rhythm that pulsed through my body. The figures were there too, their forms towering over me, their hollow eyes glowing brighter than ever. The whispers returned, softer now, almost soothing. "You are part of it. The beyond is everywhere. The heart beats for all." And as the realization set in, I understood there was no escape, no returning to the life I had known. I had unleashed the beyond, and now it was everything.